So now that everybody's settling in, as we prepare to begin, I wonder, is it too hot for you to walk outside? Is it too hot? Is anybody just absolutely, sorry?
Just got here, you want to get rid of us?
I'm going to go with you.
You're not talking about this room.
Is any, no, outside. Is anybody just really opposed to going outside for a few moments? No? Okay, because I'd like to introduce you.
I'm sitting here mulling that one over.
Are you opposed?
Well, I do know how to turn back and come in if I don't want, if I really resist it.
I just noticed on the way in that underneath the little right outside the door, there is a covered area if you don't want to be in the sun. And there was a breeze moving through there, because I'd like to introduce walking meditation, and it's just so much nicer to do that in nature, or at least closer to nature than inside up and down the hall, if that's okay. So we'll just wait for Elaine and Josie.
The crepe myrtles are blooming. They are.
And no matter what, it's summertime and here we are. So, we're sort of training ourselves to not wish time away. It's just the way it is, and now we get to decide how we're going to be with it in the best and most skillful way, because it's just hot. Yes, I have one for you tonight, but I also have a bunch of others. The induction process is exactly the same always, and we'll discuss a little bit of that tonight, and if not tonight, then surely next week. We're actually creating new neural pathways in the brain, so it's important that the induction be exactly the same every time. But after that process, guided imagery can change, and that the work with the guided imagery is what has the capacity to do deeper work. So I have recorded, this is the first one, and then I have actually 5 others with different journeys.
Now if you have trouble staying awake,
Yes.
I was so disappointed. I actually went home and cried last
Oh,
night
no.
because I missed it.
Oh, really? How you're getting it on the CD.
But how did you
I know.
feel last time?
What?
How did you feel when you woke up? Did you feel rejuvenated, or?
I can't remember. Whatever I felt, I felt immediately disappointed after I felt whatever I felt when I first woke up. But I was wondering, like, do you always have to do it lying down, or could you try the yoga nidra doing the walking meditation, or?
You can do it up. The thing is that if you notice, there was a particular position that was recommended for yoga nidra, which is on your back. Stuff like palms turned up. Because what we're trying to do actually is minimize the sensory input to the brain. So since you have so many nerve endings in your fingertips, if you were to put your fingers down, or if you touch yourself, your brain is continually getting messages, your fingers are here, or they're touching the floor, and there are fewer nerve endings on the back of the hands and on the back of the body. So the reason for the position is to minimize that input to the brain. So that's the reason that you do it lying down. Even though the recommendation, even though I say again and again to not fall asleep, that's really for the deeper work. The thing that you need to, that we're all trying to work with here is that almost all of us are sleep deprived. And maybe you didn't know how sleep deprived until you started this class and you tried to do all of this stuff. So the thing that's going to happen for quite some time is that you're just going to catch up with your sleep. And then one day you'll stay awake for all of yoga nidra, and it's not a big deal.
Right.
What do? I almost always go to sleep to my own CDs. I use them all the time. I feel great when I get up, and I don't care. Because it helps me, it matters.
Right.
So don't worry.
Okay. I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. So you'll have to just see, and nobody's telling. What were you going to say, Mike?
I fell asleep, I woke up, it felt great, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah. because it does its work on you. And so I think that the most important thing, and we'll talk again tonight and next week, the most important thing we need to do is learn what it feels like to relax, you know, and to rest deeply. And after that, then the therapeutic work comes. You know, one of the Buddhist ways to speak about that is that you can't teach somebody the Dharma, which is like Buddhist teachings, if they're hungry or thirsty. You know, first you attend to the actual physical needs. So if you need sleep, first you catch up on your rest, and then you worry about the deeper work, right? First you feed food before you try to teach anybody. So it's just all part of the process. So no worries.
Yes. I don't know if you guys mentioned this before, but I actually have no memory of the whole 45 minutes at all. I don't even know how it was different, but all I know was when I woke up I was in a trance, and then I went home and I couldn't sleep. I was
really?
completely rested.
Oh,
And
rested, okay.
Really strange. And then in the morning, like the next day, the morning, I probably slept 3 hours because I was just forcing myself to fall asleep. I felt fantastic. It was the craziest thing. So I actually had to come back and ask Cheryl, what do we do for this? I have no memory of it whatsoever. It was just amazing to me.
Deep sleep.
I don't know. I don't think I was asleep. I think because I was hearing you.
Yeah, it's called Yogic Sleep. But in fact, the sleep of the yogi is completely different than our normal sleep. Our normal sleep is really a state of unconsciousness. We just like crash. The sleep of the yogi is a state where the body is completely relaxed and may effectively be asleep. And some of this stuff we'll talk about tonight or next week, excuse me, is that in this deep state of relaxation, by all intents and purposes, you may be asleep. Like people will look at you, people snore in Yoga Nidra, and they will tell me every word that I said. So your physical body goes to sleep, but your consciousness is allowed to function at a higher level. So it's really, really exciting and really powerful work that rivals, in my opinion, the neuroscience of it all. You know, because it is neuroscience. I mean, it really is a visceral experience of how the mind works. So, I thought it would be fun to introduce this evening walking meditation. Has anybody done walking meditation before? I bet you have, yeah. Okay. So, what's the purpose of walking meditation?
So just to be fully aware and mindful of each step you take, every sensor, everything that you feel within yourself and around yourself, the blowing of the wind, the breeze, and just to be mindful of that moment in every step.
Yeah, it's really just to walk and know you're walking. And to be so aware of how often we walk and don't notice that. For example, how many people have any kind of memory of their feet touching the ground from the car to here? You know, sometimes if you trip, you know, or you stub your toe, you become aware. But other than that, you know, walking from here to there is just a license to go somewhere else, to make a plan, to think. So the invitation of walking meditation is to really let your mindfulness practice be present in all parts of your life, because you walk a lot. And so I'm hopeful that you're starting to get the message that there's no way to escape this work. There's really no way that you can talk yourself into the possibility that the causes and conditions are not right for practice. Because everything can be practiced mindfully. Everything. From brushing your teeth to standing up. So that's really more of what this is about. Now, I have had the great good fortune of studying with John Kabat-Zinn, and I just spoke to somebody who was with him in retreat a couple of weeks ago, and she said, you know, I don't remember him ever demonstrating walking meditation, but I was trying to figure out why so many people were walking the way that they were. So he has the famous recognition of leading something that the Omega Institute staff calls the Dawn of the Dead walk. So he's a tiny little guy, and he goes outside and does walking meditation, sort of like this. And it's just beautiful. I mean, he is just completely there. You know, you can do that if you like. I think it's nice to walk a little more slowly than is comfortable, because it sort of jars your nervous system to go, something else is happening, this is different. But really the point is to be aware of the foot as it touches the ground. The way and the time when you shift your weight, the way the back foot comes up and shifts forward, the way it touches the ground. So there's nothing that has to happen except your awareness of all of those things. Now, you can do this arm thing, sort of Tai Chi-like, I guess. I prefer to put my hands somewhere behind my back. What I have found myself doing and what I have watched people do is when you tell folks to start to pay attention to their walk, they do this. And then everybody comes in and goes, oh my God, I hate walking meditation, my back is killing me. So if you bring your hands behind you somehow, however it feels right, it just reminds you to open the heart and keep yourself from curling over. It is nice and important to be aware of what's going on around you. However, this is not meant to be a nature walk. So it's not about looking around at the crepe myrtle, but it is about placing your awareness on the ground a short distance in front of you and starting to notice that maybe you have a sense of the crepe myrtle when you walk by, and a sense of the parking lot when you walk by, and a sense of the people behind you and in front of you, without having to continually spin your head around like a little bird. So it's an interesting way to focus your attention and yet open your awareness at the same time. Does that sort of make sense? So the only way it's really going to make more sense is if we just go do it. Okay? So just for a moment, we'll take a little loop around the outside. You are welcome to take shoes if you like. I sort of like to walk barefoot because there's just something about letting all of your foot touch the ground. But I'll leave that up to you. Okay? Now, are we okay to just leave all this open and...
Sure.
Your back, let yourself roll over to the side, pushing up and finding a comfortable seated position as we begin our first sitting meditation tonight. And please listen to your body. So if a chair is what's called for, please have a chair. To settle in, feeling your sitting bones grounding into the earth, creating a stable base with the legs and the sitting bones, and from that base reaching up through the crown of the head, feeling the spine lengthening, shoulder blades roll down the back as the collarbones widen, head directly over the spine, chin parallel with the floor. Now, if you notice that your mind is busy or spinning, you might like to keep the palms turned down. If, on the other hand, just coming to stillness makes you sleepy, then please turn the palms to face up. Either letting your eyes gently close or just let your gaze fall at the end of your mat or just a couple of feet in front of you. And then just breathe out. And as you keep breathing out, focus on letting go of all of the events that have led to your sitting here in this moment, in this body, in this room, to roll into the background. Letting go of everything that's come before this moment. The past is gone, the future's not here. Bringing yourself here. So take a moment to notice where here is, beginning with the physical body. So take a moment to let your awareness gently and kindly drift through the body. Just taking note of any parts of this physical body in this moment that seem to be holding tightness or tension, aches or pains. Let your awareness drift to the part of the body where stress lives for you and see what's happening there. Just take a moment to notice if any part of the physical body is suddenly asking for extra care or attention this evening. Notice if by chance some part of the physical body seems to just fall out of your awareness, as if it's not even there. And notice if there's a part of the physical body, no matter how small, that feels particularly open and receptive tonight. Dropping out of the busyness of mind now, coming to your senses, dwelling inside your own skin. Take a moment to notice breath. The ease of breath or the struggle. The smoothness or stickiness. The speed and the depth. Let yourself watch the breath come in and go out. Noticing where in the physical body, in this moment, the breath feels the most alive. It may be deep or shallow, maybe front or back, maybe in the sides of the body, or maybe you're just aware of breath at the tip of the nose. Just notice what is so. And then take a moment to notice what's going on in your mind tonight. Becoming aware of thoughts, worries, plans, or expectations. And as you notice what's going on in there, notice your relationship to whatever you find. Notice without judgment if you're struggling and fighting with thought. Noticing without judgment if you're indulging thoughts that you like. And noticing without judgment if you're turning away from your own thoughts, unable to even see what's on your mind. Setting the intention for the time that we'll spend together this evening to really be here, moment to moment, without judgment. Cultivating the attitude of the witness. Training the mind to just see what is so. Training the mind to recognize how often that differs from what you think about what is so. So with a sense of deep gratitude for the opportunity to come together this evening and practice, to open our hearts, bodies, and minds, we can be sure that any and all good that comes of this time will be of benefit to far more than just us. So as we begin our first sitting, notice if by chance your posture has shifted in these few moments. And if you find that you've curled in or somehow fallen back on the sacrum, take a moment to let yourself come back up nice and long and tall. Do be honest with yourself as we move through this period of practice. So if you need a chair, please feel free to sit in a chair. But for the next few moments, let's just become aware of sound. Not necessarily in the usual way, but noticing sound as an event and allowing that event to be as neutral as you can. So for the next few moments, let yourself notice sound as it comes and goes. Try not to seek sound, but just let sound come to you. Noticing sounds without judging or identifying. Noticing the transitions between sounds. And if the occasion arises, becoming aware of silence. Just taking a moment to hear. Watching sun arise and dwell and fade away, moment to moment without judgment. Now soon you'll probably notice that your awareness drifts away from sound. That you have a thought or a sensation in the body. Or you get interested in a sound and focus on it intently. But the moment that you notice that your awareness has wandered, remember that in each moment you get to choose what gets your attention. And rather than making it be a big deal or giving yourself a hard time, you might choose to be delighted that you have now the capacity to notice when your mind wanders. And again, without judgment or criticism, remember that you get to choose what gets your attention. So choose this moment, bringing yourself back again to this moment, this sound. And you can always remember that this breath is always happening now. So if you get lost and it's difficult to return to this moment, if you're able to bring awareness to this breath, you're choosing this moment. Breath is always your anchor. Taking a moment to just hear. wanders 1,000 times, just notice and gently and kindly bring it back 1,000 times. We're training the mind to stay. Watching sound arise and dwell and fade away. Moment to moment without judgment. When your mind wanders, let yourself be delighted that you noticed and choose to come back. Again and again and again. That's our practice. The willingness to return to this moment when you notice that you've left. Sound. Noticing spaces between sounds. Noticing silence. And then drawing awareness in a little bit more. Taking a moment to sit here inside your own skin. Coming to your senses now. Feeling this physical body sitting here in space. If you were lost in sound just moments ago, notice if your posture has shifted. And if you find that you've settled in, let yourself draw up again, nice and long and tall, shoulder blades roll down, head directly over the spine. Notice the sitting bones as they contact the floor or the chair. Become aware of the length of the spine, the position of the shoulder blades, the openness of the heart. Noticing the location and weight and temperature of hands. The tilt of the head. The sensation of clothing. The temperature of air. Take a moment to rest here inside your own skin, now watching sensations as they arise and dwell and fade away. Sooner or later, it's likely that a sensation will demand your attention. Maybe it'll be an itch, maybe an ache in your knee, maybe your foot going to sleep. Notice how easy it is to automatically shift and move away from discomfort. And without causing harm, see what happens if you just take a moment to really notice what it is that you feel that you need to move away from before you move. So rather than turning away from discomfort, see if you can turn toward it. Look at it. See what it is. Where it is. What it needs. And then if what's called for is to shift or move, then please do so. But do so with full awareness. So we're working on breaking this trance of automatic pilot. Choosing to move rather than moving automatically. Sometimes nothing will be happening. And sometimes the sensation will be yelling. Just notice what happens when that occurs. And if you get lost in thought or sound or sensation in the body, keep remembering that this breath is always your anchor. Bringing awareness to this breath keeps you here. And then shift awareness to this breath. It's a pretty big deal to be breathing. This breath has never happened before. This breath will never happen again. Anytime you choose to pay attention to this breath, you're choosing to be present for this moment, which is in fact the only moment that you know for sure you have to live. So just experiment with watching the breath as it comes and goes. Trying as best you can to let go of the need to change or control breath. Maybe you'll start to notice that there are spaces between breaths. Space between the out-breath and the in-breath. A space between the in-breath and the out-breath. Just explore the possibility of waiting in those spaces and allowing the next breath, either in or out, to occur when it's time. Your body knows how to breathe, doesn't need your help. But it is true that you can get in the way of your body's wisdom, your body's ability to breathe. Just this breath. Watching it come in and watching it go out. Nothing matters but this breath. So shift awareness one more time. And now bring that same kind attention to the thoughts that might be moving through your mind. And see what it's like if you just watch the thoughts arise and dwell and fade away, the same way that you've noticed sound as it comes and goes. Sensations in the body arise and dwell and fade away. The breath come and go. Just watch thoughts now from the perspective of the witness, as if you're just watching your thoughts play out on a screen in front of your closed eyes. Now, if your mind is busy or this seems difficult tonight, you might like an analogy that I often use. You might imagine that thoughts are like droplets of water in a waterfall. And maybe you feel like you're drowning in this waterfall of thought. But you're about as unlikely to stop this waterfall of thought as you are to stop an actual waterfall. What you can do, though, is step behind the waterfall. So the thoughts don't have to stop, but you can change your relationship to thoughts as they come and go. From this calm and quiet place, you can notice the thoughts that drag you in. Notice the thoughts you push away. Notice the ones that make you turn your back. All from the perspective of the witness. So if you get pulled into this waterfall and you find yourself in the swirling waters of thought at the base of your waterfall, notice that. And once you notice where you are, let yourself be delighted that you noticed. And then remember that you get to choose what happens next. But for this moment, we're choosing standing behind the waterfall of thought and watching the thoughts arise and dwell and fade away. And so if your mind wanders 1,000 times, the invitation is to bring it back 1,000 times. Training the mind to stay. If your mind wanders 1,000 times, breath is your anchor. Anytime you get lost, returning awareness to breath brings you back to this moment. And from this place, take in these words by Mary Oliver. This poem is called Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains, and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. So just take a moment to notice any changes that may have occurred in your experience of being inside your own skin. Notice any changes in your experience of breath. And notice if your mind has changed in any way. Setting the intention to really be here for the rest of our time this evening, certain that any and all good that comes of our work will be of benefit to far more than just us. So hi again, and welcome. So I am really curious, did anything change in this last hour since you walked in the door?
Slowed down.
Sorry?
Slowed down.
Yeah. When did you notice that?
I was listening to breathing.
Anybody else notice anything?
I think I'm more in the room.
Aha. And what do you mean by that?
I don't think I was fully here. Certainly, as I walked outside, I didn't do it. And when I came back, and as we settled into thinking inside, I came here.
And how does it feel to be here?
It's a little bit like when I try to do this when I'm eating, so that I'm really on point and I'm not scattered, not away, here.
So is it fair to assume that your body settled and your breath settled and potentially your mind settled down too?
I think I could only speak to the mind.
Okay, so the mind had settled.
body came along automatically. But I resisted flying away from breathing.
Thank you. And so for those of you who might have had some discomfort in your body as we were sitting, did you notice that it was hard to get your mind to settle down? Because body, breath, and mind are totally connected. And if your body is not comfortable, your mind is not going to automatically come along.
My foot fell asleep pretty early on, and it got worse and worse and worse. Like, it was not even part of my body anymore. And I started to, like, kind of freak out about it because it was so asleep. But what was interesting is I still kept coming back to the breath. So I would, like, it would pull me out of that. And I would be like, oh my God, my foot's asleep. And then I would pull it back, and there was still a quiet place in there while the foot was yelling.
Oh, wow. That's pretty important, huh?
And that was nice.
And did you move and let your foot
I
have
had to
some
move a few, I
circulation?
definitely
Yeah.
moved a few times, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
didn't matter. I mean, I wasn't not trying to move or I just
Okay.
let myself move.
Because sometimes, we struggle with sensation. And this is not about causing harm. This is simply about cultivating the flexibility to stay for a moment with discomfort so that you can really see what it is. What you might start to notice, what's really curious to me, is that particularly with an itch, something starts to itch and you're positive that you're just gonna die if you can't scratch it, right? I mean, you're gonna die. But if you're willing to just play with that for a moment, it's amazing how fast it goes away. Not always. But if you're willing to sit through that and notice that no matter how much you're just like going crazy, if you wait, a moment later it's gone. You're training yourself to stay at that edge so that you don't panic, so that you don't always freak out and run, so that you can stay right there at that edge. And sometimes there's nothing to do. And that's at least part of what this sitting practice can train us to do. To be curious rather than afraid.
My foot fell asleep too, my right foot, but I wasn't aware of it until we stopped. And I didn't think I could move my leg. It was like this all the way down to my back.
Me too. I had a foot like this.
Like this. Yeah, so it was weird because I was aware of some other things, like some back or neck or whatever that I would adjust, but wasn't even aware that that was going on.
And that's a very interesting and sometimes disconcerting part of long meditation retreats, because even experienced meditators have that same issue. And so a lot of times in a long retreat, you sit for a while and then walk, and people don't take a moment to check in and see how they are, and people stand up and fall over because they didn't know that their foot was asleep. And it's very, very common to be in a meditation retreat and watch people fall over. They just fall because they stand up without noticing. So it really does, paying attention really does help. There's a lot of information that's available when you start to pay attention. Anybody notice anything about the walking meditation or have an opinion about it?
I resisted putting my hands around that. I thought, or I felt like I needed to feel this